Welcome to Glasgow, host city for next year's Commonwealth Games. Welcome to the Bank of Scotland Great Scottish Run, the 35th running of the race. A record field is assembled in this fine city. One of the greats is here too, Haile Gebrselassie, on his first ever visit to Scotland. He'll race here and he continues to encourage youngsters wherever he goes. Always a smile on his face. But let's now meet the principals, the elites who will perform for us today. Susan Partridge is the first to be introduced. 10th place in the World Championship Marathon just this season. Goes for the marathon in the Commonwealth Games. A best of 70 minutes and 32 seconds, incidentally, over this half marathon course, 13.1 miles. Steph Twell next up, former World Junior Champion, goes for the 5,000 metres in the Commonwealth Games. Got a best of 71.56, but that was back in 2010. Badly injured since then. But Freya Ross, formerly Freya Murray, of course, coming back from a stress fracture, was 44th in the London Olympic Marathon, the first Briton home, incidentally, after replacing Paula Radcliffe in that race. And for the men, first to be introduced, Andrew Lemoncello, a former steeplechaser for Great Britain, jet-lagged, he said, been up since 6 o'clock yesterday. He says this is a night race for him, his time clock, incidentally. And next up will be a Kenyan, John Kelai, and 2010 Commonwealth Marathon champion. He's already won one marathon this year, that was in China, so he should be in good form. And next up is Joseph Birech of Kenya, twice winner of the race. He is in fact the defending champion, won it the last 2 years. And he's been injured, we understand, so I'm not quite sure how he'll go. But this fella is, as I've said before, one of the greats of all time. Third in the recent Great North Run behind Kelai and Farah. He set a pace for most of the way. Former world record holder at half marathon. Haile Gebrselassie of Ethiopia needs no introduction, really. Always a smile on his face, isn't there? And this course beginning, of course, in Queen Street, near Queen Street Station and George Square. And Kath Granger will be the starter, or is the starter, to get them underway in this race. It's a mixed race, the men and women going together, over 13.1 miles. There's the scene in George Square as the masses begin their way out onto the course. 11,500 strong, the number assembled here. It's a very, very big field indeed, and at the helm, a real elite. Difficult first part of the course. There are a couple of very big uphill parts. There's Kath Granger on the right, the Olympic rower, the gold medalist, and there is that hill. It's about 300 metres long. What about the course? Well, it's over 13.1 miles, starts in George Square. It's part of the 2014 Commonwealth Marathon course and crosses the Clyde twice and through the picturesque Bellahouston Park, past many iconic buildings, including several Commonwealth Games facilities. It is a testing course with several challenging hills, but the finish itself on Glasgow Green. Well, that is the target, and this is the leading group of men. Well, they've soon broken away, and the one thing I notice is that the defending champion, Joseph Birech, is not there. Now, what's happened to him, I'm not sure. But we'll catch up on that later. But Haile Gebrselassie is there, Kelai is there, Lambda Sam, the Spaniard, is there as well. So is Chris Thompson, of course, former European silver medalist over 10,000 metres. Right at the back of that group, we've got Lemoncello. And it really is a big opening up early on in this race indeed. And, well, the women's race down to 3 already. Partridge is there. Now, interesting is Pauline Wanjiku of Kenya. Now, she's got a best faster than the other two at 70 minutes and 28, and that was set this year, incidentally. She got a very late call-up on Thursday, having just got back in Kenya, having won the Nottingham half marathon. But Freya has had her problems since the Olympic Games. She did very well. She was 44th in that, the first Briton home, but she's had a stress injury since then, and this is her way back. But certainly when you look at Susan Partridge, well, she's in very, very good form too. The pace will be around about 71-minute pace, but this is very, very early to call that. It really is. And the rest, watch the individual stopwatches being clicked. This is, they will have the electronic devices on their ankles which will go over the pads, which will give them the official time. But of course, when you're waiting like this and queuing, then the various groups all lining up in order of ability. But this is real ability. Gebrselassie is leading this. Bet is up there with that leading group as well. Emmanuel Bet of Kenya. That's the Kingston Bridge, incidentally, they're going over. And the course, as I said, is part of the marathon course which they've set next year for the Commonwealth Games. Down to 3, I can see Steph Twell in the background in that reddish top. I can see her there. It looks to be in 4th place in the background, but there's a big gap opening up already with Wanjiku. Oh, there's Birech. He's by the bus stop. Well, that answers the question. He's pulled out of the race and he would seem to be limping a little bit as he waits by the bus stop. Well, that's extraordinary. Twice winner of the event, and he's no longer involved. Thompson is losing contact with that leading 3, isn't he? Chris Thompson there. And it is down to Bet. Now, Bet is a class 10,000 metre man. I watched him last year in Brussels in the 10,000 metres run the fastest time for the year in 26:51.16. Now, having said that, he's been nowhere near that this 2013 season, well outside the 13 minutes. So we don't know quite what he's got, but what we do know is he's got a very good sprint finish. Lambda Sam is up there, Thompson in 4th place, just taking a little drink. No change in the women's race. Interesting how Wanjiku will go, winning the race, the half marathon in Nottingham. She's had a bit of a rush, really, having just arrived in Glasgow on Saturday morning. She's had little time to really recover from that journey, although she seems to be taking it on quite strongly at this stage. The pace still around about 71 minutes for the women. And as far as the men are concerned, well, they will be looking for as near to 61 minutes as possible. But certainly Partridge looking very, very good indeed. So is Ross at the moment, and so is Wanjiku. Well, the pacemaking, of course, always useful in a mixed race. They pick up on some of the men. There's Ibrox, the Ibrox Stadium in the background, this shot. These athletes will be deep in concentration. They will not notice the iconic buildings. Lambda Sam in 2nd place. Bet's actually dropped back into 3rd here. 19 minutes and 20 gone. So they're between 4 and 5 miles. The last mile, well, the first 3, 4:52, 4:44 and 4:33. 4th mile in 4:40. So Chris Thompson, you can see the green vest way off the back of that group. Now he's hoping to run a marathon, the London Marathon, we understand, next year. He's going to run in the Great Birmingham Run, the half marathon there, which is in a week's time, and then he's going in the Great South Run as well. So, but Gebrselassie, what a good job he did in the Great North Run. Now look at this. Oh, look at this. All of a sudden, Wanjiku is dropped off the back and we're down to 2. Now that happened very, very quickly indeed. And she's obviously suffering from the journey that she had to make back from Kenya as soon as she arrived, having got home from the Nottingham Half Marathon. It was a very late call for her. So it's now down to 2. And Susan Partridge, incidentally, is already selected for the Commonwealth Games marathon. And representing Scotland, she's from the Glasgow club, and both of them are Scot, of course. Having said that, Freya has done great service for Scotland over the years and always puts in a very, very good performance. But as I said, she is recovering a bit from the injury that I mentioned earlier. But all of a sudden now, is that Bet in the lead from Gebrselassie? It looks as though it could well be. And Lambda Sam looks as though he's dropped. The Spaniard has dropped off by about, 20 metres or so. Well, interesting to see if Bet can run the legs off a man who's set some fantastic times in the marathon, former world record holder. Gebrselassie has run the fastest ever half marathon in a marathon. And in fact, he was starting in Berlin. I was in Berlin recently, and he was starting that race. And on that race, it was the 2nd fastest time ever in a half marathon. These people will not be concerned with that. They will be concerned with raising money for charities. They will have their own personal stopwatches to go back to their offices on Monday to report back personal bests and so forth. Feeding station, drink station. There's Bella Houston Park. and that's between 6 and 7, I think, just 27:11 on the clock, so they're coming up to 6 miles. The last mile, the 5th mile, was 4:48 incidentally. This looks as though it might be a little bit quicker because they burst away from Lam de Sam, and it is down to 2. You can always rely though on Gebrselassie. He's such a good tactician. Former world record holder at the marathon, 2 hours, 3 minutes and 59. That was in Berlin, and was the former world record holder at half marathon as well. There's Lam de Sam going through. And back to Susan. Oh, look at this. There's another gap now. And the gap is between Susan Partridge and Freya Ross. And it looks to me as though Susan Partridge at 27:59. Let me just check on that. She is between 5 and 6 miles from Dumbreck Road going into Bellahouston Park, and that is around about 71-minute pace, which is roughly what she's capable of in the past. Her personal best, incidentally, 70 minutes and 32 seconds. 4th place then, Chris Thompson, Bellahouston Park. He's on his. This is the most difficult place of all, to be on your own in the midst of a race.